Welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today I'm going to be bringing you my June TBR. So June is Once Upon a Readathon, and I am very, very excited for this edition of Once Upon a Readathon. It is Treasure Island themed. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you haven't heard of Once Upon a Readathon, all the information, including the announcement video, will be linked down below in the description, so you can check that out and participate if you want to. I have a ridiculous amount of books on this TBR, and I honestly don't think that it will be easy to get to all of them. I honestly don't even think that I will get to all of them, but I am hopeful. I just have so many books that I want to read. My goal for Once Upon a Readathon, because I am not going to be on any teams, is to just read as many books that fit the extra points prompts as possible. Just read along with a theme. So books with merfolk, pirates, dragons, djinn, and water settings. Obviously trying to fit in as many LGBTQIA+ and BIPOC books that I can. So that's my plan. I have a lot of books. I'm going to start out with the fantasy and romance books, a lot of fantasy romance as well. And then I'm going to finish up with the thrillers or like contemporary books that I might want to read as well. That's going to be at the end. And I think it's actually mostly thrillers. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to do so. All of my information is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter. Don't forget to click the like button and comment down below. Let me know what team are you on for Once Upon a Readathon and what book you think I should really prioritize this June. I'm going to try to go through these kind of quickly and give very short, vague synopses for these books, only because, like I said, there are 21 books that I want to talk about or try to read in June, so that's a lot, and so I just don't want this video to be crazy long, but I do have a lot of books I really want to read. So starting off, we're going to kind of talk about some of the bigger, chunkier books. The first one is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is the prequel to A Priory of the Orange Tree, which I really enjoyed. It wasn't a perfect book, but I actually really had a good time. This is a sapphic political fantasy with dragons, and there is this upcoming struggle that we know about, and we basically have two different sides of the world that both have different views on dragons. One worships and one just hates them and thinks that they are evil. So they have to find a way to come together to beat the evil at hand. And I think that a similar story comes here because we have discussed the histories in Priory of the Orange Tree, and it seems to be a little bit cyclical, so I think this is going to be a similar story, but obviously with different characters, and I'm very interested. I've heard this book is better than Priory, but I actually have heard a couple of competing views. I've heard one or two people say they did not like it, even though they loved Priory, but most people I've heard of think it's better than Priory. So we'll see where I fall in that. This is one of the buddy reads on our Discord for Once Upon a Readathon. There's a lot of us buddy reading this. There's actually a lot of buddy reads going on in the Discord, so make sure you check that out if you haven't already. It's just chunky. I really do hope to get to it. I want to participate in that buddy read. Yet another of many buddy reads going on the Discord is The Adventures of Mina Al-Sarafi, and I bought this when it came out, and I've been wanting to read it, haven't gotten to it. This is the author of the David trilogy, which I really enjoyed, but this is a band gets back together, this band of pirates gets back together to go on one last adventure. I hear it's a little bit campy. I hear the sense of humor is a little bit different from David. I'm guessing it's a little bit less political, and I think that the writing style is not what a lot of people expected, but I think knowing that going in, I'm expecting something a little bit more campy and like a story about a story kind of situation, and because I know that, I'm hoping that I enjoy it, because I do tend to like those kind of stories, I think. From what I'm gathering, I think it might be more cozy, but I don't know. Anyway, obviously pirates, I think there's djinn in this story as well. Another story with a djinn in it is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This is another buddy read going on in the Discord, which is really cool. And I want to read this. This is about a girl who has this djinn bodyguard, and they basically get stuck going on a mission with like this prince, I guess. And I think like our main character has to go with him to find this old artifact. I really like journey stories, quests and journeys, and a djinn bodyguard sounds interesting to me. I'm like, I'm hoping there's some kind of romance in here, either with the prince or the bodyguard, so we'll find out about that. I also really prefer the paperback cover to the hardback. I love the purples and orange on here. I don't know if that's because it's a Barnes & Noble edition or if that's just what the regular one looks like, but yet another buddy read on the Discord is Tress of the Emerald Sea. This has pirates in it from what I know, and I don't know what else. There may be other creatures. This is a cozy fantasy that is part of Brandon Sanderson's year of many book releases. I signed up for that over a year ago, so we are actually being sent the special editions, and this is a really cool edition. I just think it's beautiful. The artwork in the pages is really pretty too. And this is a cozy fantasy that I know involves this girl who goes to try to find the boy that she's in love with, who she thinks has been like kidnapped. I heard it's for people who really like The Princess Bride. I've never watched or read The Princess Bride. I really love cozy fantasy, and I think it'd be fun to fit a cozy fantasy into my June TBR. Next, I have another chunky book, but this one is actually a historical dark romance, and it is Sea of Ruin. This is a pirate book, and I think this involves a polyamorous relationship. From what I've heard, it is extremely dark. There's lots of trigger warnings. Make sure to check them out. Apparently this book is not for everyone. I have read a lot of extremely dark books. I know kind of what to expect, I think. And so we'll see how I like it. But I've heard really wonderful things. This is a lot of people's favorite romance, or one of their favorite romance. So I've heard it's really good, and I'm hoping I will like it. I know Tori, I think, is going to be reading this book too in June. And I think there's a few other people. So maybe it'll end up being a buddy read. It might be a buddy read on the Discord too. I'm not sure. If not, it should be. So another book I really want to read that involves mermaids is Rolling the Deep, which is the novella prequel to Into the Drowning Deep by Mara Grant. And I hear this is just basically the story that's referenced in Into the Drowning Deep. The first time this crew goes out to try to prove the existence of mermaids, and things go wrong. And in the book Into the Drowning Deep, they are actually trying to find out what happened to this crew. So I'm really excited to find out the backstory and what really happened. I think it's going to be really good to have a novella, like a shorter book too, on my TBR, because I do have so many books on my TBR for June. Novellas will be helpful. Another book about mermaids I really would like to get to is All the Murmuring Bones by A.G. Slatter. I learned about this I was having a discussion with, I think it was Kristen, about this book. And apparently it's supposed to be like a gothic fantasy about mermaids, and it's supposed to have a lot of dark atmospheric vibes. It sounds right up my alley. I love dark, atmospheric, gothic fantasy to fantasy romances. I think that would be really cool. The idea of gothic mermaids, pretty cool. And I'm hoping it's going to be really bringing the vibes and the atmosphere. Next I have Twisted Djinn. I forgot the author of this one, but I'll have it up here or up here. I don't know. But this is a Why Choose fantasy romance, and I think the Djinn in this story is the heroine, and then I think the ones who control her are the heroes, and I think there's 3 of them. I think this is a post-apocalyptic story. If you want a further synopsis of it, go check out Maggie's video. I'll link that down below. It's one of the books she recommended for Once Upon a Readathon, and I thought it sounded really cool. So lately I've been hearing a lot about this book. It's called The Sea Witch by Rebecca Kenny, and it really looks fun. It's a Little Mermaid retelling where the Sea Witch is actually the hero, and then there's the mermaid, obviously, who falls in love with him. So it's kind of like the villain gets the girl story, but it's a male that is the Sea Witch, like half Kraken kind of person. And this one I hear is really spicy, really sexy, a really fun fantasy romance. It's a standalone, which I love. And yeah, I keep getting really hyped on it on Instagram. Rebecca Kenny is always posting about it, and it always looks like I want to pick it up, but I've been holding off so I could read it for this readathon. Another fantasy romance that I think looks good is Releasing the Djinn by Katarina Winters, and I don't know much about this one. I remember like reading the synopsis and thinking that it sounded really good. I think someone maybe accidentally releases a genie and romance ensues. I also think this would be a good time to continue on with the Zodiac Academy. I've read through the 5th book in the series, so I'm on the 6th book. in the Zodiac Academy. And I think this would be, yeah, the perfect time because there are sirens and dragons in this story. I've been wanting to continue on. I've had a little bit of a break from the series. I think it's been about a month or a month and a half since I've read the last book. So I think it's time. I think it's time to pick up another one. Next I have Jessamina Rue's Pirate Witch. This one I think is a wide choose. I think it's a witch and then pirates. And I've heard it's like one of the spiciest books like out there, especially involving pirates. I've heard that it's basically just pure smut, and I've heard the smut's really, really good. So I think it's a little bit dark as well. Dark fantasy romance, why choose with like a super high spice level. I'm hoping, I have high hopes for this one. I think the Sea Witch and the Pirate Witch are the books that I'm like the most excited for in terms of fantasy romance for the month of June. Okay, so the next one I have is The Lost Siren. I was caught by the cover of this book. I thought that the cover was really beautiful, and I don't know anything about it. But I did see the ratings, and the ratings were pretty good, and I was surprised because I had never heard of this book, but it came up when I was searching things on Kindle, and I thought it looked really good. I feel like the cover brings like full on Once Upon a Readathon Treasure Island vibes, and I just thought it was so fitting. I don't know anything going into it, but I really do hope I read it this month. I also have Dragon Found. This is a why choose dragon or dragon shifter romance. We have our heroine, and I think that the heroes are the dragon shifters. It's why choose, and I think it's like an epic adventure fantasy too. Like I think there's going to be some politics, some struggle, some battles, that kind of thing. It's giving me the vibes that it's going to be a little bit like some of Mary Mysteries series, where there is a lot of epic fantasy battles, a war raging on. I think that this is a trilogy, and I believe the first 2 books are out so far. Okay, so the next 2 books I know nothing about. So the first one is A Promised Fire. I learned about this one from Maggie from Maggie's Books and Stuff. I'm going to have her video. It's already linked down below because that's where I learned about the Djinn book. So I learned about it from her. I just remember that I thought it looked really, really good, and I had to add it to my TBR. Things like that are basically at this point why my TBR is so flipping long, because I just keep adding books like without even fully reading the synopsis. I'm like, that looks perfect. That looks perfect. That looks perfect. Let's read that one. Ooh, yeah, I want to read that one too. Like, that's how this is going. So the same with the next one. Karina Halley has A Ship of Bones and Teeth, and it literally just came out, I think, yesterday. I hear this is going to be a dark, gothic pirate romance, and I was like, I have to. I have to. I've been wanting to read Karina Halley for a long time. I have some of her vampire books on my TBR. I think I have one of her vampire books downloaded on my Kindle Unlimited. I was really interested in her Viking series too. I just keep hearing about her, and I have to get on the train. I have to check her out. I have to know what it's all about. I have to know why I keep hearing about her. And this one sounded perfect. Okay, so let's get to some of the thrillers that are on my TBR. The first one is Something in the Water by Catherine Stedman. I actually just watched Books and Lala read this book on her most recent video, so I'll have that video linked down below. And it looked really interesting to me. It's about this couple that I think is on their honeymoon or a vacation. I'm not sure which. And somehow a secret is exposed and things get very dangerous and violent from there. And it's set, I think it's in Fiji, I could be wrong, but somewhere really tropical and beautiful. And I just thought that was going to be perfect. And I think that Books and Lala enjoyed this. And I generally trust her thriller opinions because she generally has similar opinions to me on thrillers. Like, if she is into something, yes. If she's not, no. And I don't think that she was like overly super ecstatic about it, but I definitely know that she did not like it. And it kind of jumped out to me as perfect for the readathon if I'm in a thriller mood, which lately I've been reading a lot of contemporary, which kind of scares me for this readathon. That's why I wanted a lot of water setting thriller backup books. I also have Alice Feeney's Daisy Darker. I think this is about a family reunion set at this island, and it seems kind of like ominous and stormy, especially by the cover. And I think this is a 1-by-1 trope. I'm not sure, but I think it might be a 1x1 trope. Very similar to Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. I could be wrong, but that's kind of the vibes I'm getting from it. Ooh, this one's really cool. This is The River at Night by Erica Ferencik. I'm so sorry. I'm saying that wrong. I'm gonna try again. Ferencik? It's this one. This is about like a whitewater rafting trip that goes wrong, and I think it's like a fight for their lives in the wilderness type of thriller, which is really different from what I usually read, but I think that could be really, really fun. It's also kind of unique. Like everything else I feel like has like more like oceanic vibes that's on my TBR, but I think a river scene could be really fun. And like I said, this is really different from thrillers that I usually read, but I think it could be like fast-paced and good. I've heard really good things about this. I first learned about this from someone who was in my local book club when we were doing like we were trying to pick a book based on a water setting. This is like a year ago, and they had suggested this book and we almost decided to read it. And I remember adding it to my TBR because I thought it sounded really good. Okay, so back on my domestic thriller game. I love me some domestic thrillers. I never rate them super high, but I always have a good time and I always read them extremely quickly. And sometimes I just need that palate cleanser, even if I know it's not going to be my favorite book of the year. So this is Michelle Campbell's Stranger on the Beach. So I think this couple has this beach house in like the Hamptons or maybe like a town like that. And there's a stranger watching them on the beach. And I'm sure there's more to it than meets the eye. I'm sure some people have some naughty secrets. And things get dangerous from there, and that's all I know. All I want to know. I never really want to know too much when I'm going into a domestic thriller book. Okay, another 1x1 trope is Lucy Foley's The Guest List, and I believe this is a wedding party. And I think this is going to be very similar to the Alice Feeney book, Daisy Darker, that I talked about. Once again, a 1x1 trope. I honestly often get the two confused because their covers are so similar, and both of their last names start with F. And so I get very confused between the two. So I figured, let's just put both of them on the TBR and do that. So I actually have a physical copy of The Guest List right here. And I guess I should have held it up earlier, but yeah. So I have a physical copy of this one, and I think I have the other one checked out from the library. So I definitely get the two of them very confused. I mean, like, look at these covers. Aren't they like... They're very similar. And I guess that was it. I think that was all 21 books. If I was wrong, then oh well. I hope I remembered all of the books that I wanted to talk about. To be honest, there are other books that I think I might want to read as well. And I can't go through all of them, but I have them right here. I'm just going to say it. Piranesi by Susanna Clark is an option as well as a backup. Another one is The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware, which is a thriller. If I'm really in my thriller game and I've read all of the ones that I listed, might want to pick that one up. And if for some reason I'm really into epic fantasy and I have somehow gotten through all of that TBR, we have Nomads of the Sea by Kobe Zucker. I could also change my mind and pick up the book that I just soft DNF'd, which is Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. Obviously, there are dragons in this book. So I guess 21 wasn't enough. I had to say 25. We need to end this video. This needs to end. I have a million books that I could read for this readathon, and I want to read all of them. I'm hoping I have a good month. This month in May has not been good for me. I have not been doing very well with my reading. I mean, I guess it's fine. I think I've read like 9 books, but for me, I guess that's a little bit low. And I just have not been reading much fantasy, which is really weird for me. So we'll see how that changes things for me in the next month. We'll just have to find out, because I do have a lot of books I was hoping to get to that I was like waiting for months for this readathon to read, and they're all like fantasy romance and fantasy books. So I'm really hoping I kind of get back into a fantasy mood. Let me know down below what you're going to read for Once Upon a Readathon. Let me know what team you are on and which books you think I should prioritize. If you have not already subscribed, I would love to have you do so. Don't forget to click the like button. All of my social media and all the information about Once Upon a Readathon is linked down below in the description. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.